So, what is a human? Is it that we think differently compared to other species? Is it that we evolved to create weapons for advantages in survival? A quote from a man named Mahatma Gandhi: "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service of others." This quote has the connotations of compassion because it shows that if we are the best version of ourselves, we have to help each other to improve ourselves, so that if this rule were to apply to everyone, there would be a balance of compassion and kindness. This links to being human because it shows the qualities of us all. Some people find it more challenging to express themselves, but we are all social creatures.
We are just an advanced breed of monkey on a minor planet on a very average star, but we understand the universe. That's what makes us special, said Stephen Hawking in 1988 during an interview about exploring the extent of human potential. We have spent the last 12 weeks reflecting on what it means to be human, studying the human body, the transatlantic slave trade, and many other things relating to the topic. But like many of our guiding questions, the deeper we've researched and questioned, the more complex and problematic this simple question has become. There's no set answer to what it means to be human, which makes it such an interesting and controversial topic. The answer to this question is dependent on our own history and worldviews. We asked ourselves, is being human about culture or body parts? As we have explored the anatomy of human beings, we have realised that it's not only our religion or the function of our organs, but our ability to question and wonder, not only about ourselves, but other things and objects.
Our organs and organ systems work together to ensure life can exist. For example, the heart pumps blood around the body to send oxygen and nutrients around the body. The oxygen is used by the mitochondria to release energy from our food. Amazingly, the heart can beat at least 100 beats per minute to move the blood with its hemoglobin-rich red blood cells to the body's tissues. Oxygen absorbs into the blood during gas exchange into the lungs. When you inhale, air enters your lungs and oxygen from the air moves into your alveoli, which then diffuses into your blood. The alveoli has a large surface area, which is about the size of a tennis court, to absorb oxygen, and at the same time, carbon dioxide moves from your blood to the lungs, and so it can be exhaled. The circulatory system is made from the heart, blood, and blood vessels. The arteries, veins, and capillaries. The arteries carry blood away from the heart, while the veins bring it back. The arteries have strong, thick walls so they can withstand the blood pressure when the heart is pumping, while the veins have valves to make sure the blood only flows in one direction. The capillaries are tiny blood vessels that are close to the body cells. Food and oxygen can pass from the blood into cells quickly from them. The circularity and gas exchange system work together to deliver the oxygen for life and remove waste like carbon dioxide from our bodies. Humans have a very efficient system to supply large amounts of oxygen to our other organs, but especially to our brains.
We are very different from other animals due to our large brains and how much information it can hold. But without all the other organs, our brain wouldn't matter. When we are babies, our brains absorb 50% of the oxygen we take in, because when we are young, we are helpless and need to develop. For example, we need to learn to walk, which takes a few years, unlike other mammals like horses, which takes a few hours to get on their feet and walk. As teenagers and adults, our brain absorbs 20% of the oxygen we absorb. Without the diaphragm and the lungs working together as well as they are, there wouldn't be enough for the brain to absorb. But also without the circulatory system working as well as it does, there wouldn't be enough oxygenated blood around the body, and the deoxygenated blood would take longer to get to the lungs to get the oxygen in the blood system. Our brain couldn't absorb enough information. Therefore, our brain couldn't do what it's supposed to do, like help us communicate. Our brain is one of the organs which helps us communicate with one another. Communication is very important in survival. If it wasn't for communication, we wouldn't have been able to survive and evolve into humans, since we use communication to pass on information to learn. We use our brain for many things, not only communication. We use it to solve problems, creativity, and so much more.
When we went on the fieldwork to Queen Elizabeth Hospital, we learned that the doctors don't just try to physically help the patients, you also have to mentally help the patients. When we arrived at the queue, we met John. He wasn't feeling his best. He was actually a medical dummy, but that doesn't matter. The first important thing we had to do was reassure John, because if we didn't, then John would feel unsafe, stressed, and panicked. We then had to work out what was wrong with him. The third thing we did for John was put an oxygen mask on him to help oxygenate his blood. We then put a nebulizer on John to deliver quick doses of medicine if needed to. And then we had to x-ray John in case he had an infection or blockage in his lungs and airways. And finally, we had to give him antibiotics in case he had any infections that needed to be taken care of. Removing John's stress is important for the third step because he could panic when you put the equipment onto him. Medical staff, and maybe we all should too, understand that the mind is just as important as the body. You need to calm the person first before we can help them to help you further down the line and in the moment. To add what it means to be human, we should respect the human mind, the body, and their relationship with others, as without it, it's almost impossible to be a human.
Peter Scott Morgan was diagnosed with motor neuron disease and planned to transform himself into a human cyborg. Motor neuron disease is a disease of the nerves which over time paralyses the person with it. It has no cure and only has ways to treat it. Peter describes it as being locked in and plans to replace his digestive system, his mobility and his voice. His first surgery was to get an artificial stomach to digest liquid food. However, MND is a progressive disease and Peter had lost the ability to walk, so he was given a state-of-the-art wheelchair. Next on the stage of MND was the ability to lose his voice, so he planned to make the decision to record an artificial voice which kept a part of himself. Peter showed that he wanted to keep his humanity by fighting to keep his personality and showed humanity goes deeper than organs and cells. After a while, Peter's lungs began to get weaker and he would eventually lose his voice due to the fact his diaphragm was weak. He had an operation and wanted to keep his ability to sing with an artificial voice and spent a long time recording his voice, which he saw was his personality.
Likewise, it took a long time for humans to evolve to the stage we are at now, 7 million years to be precise. Over this time, we have changed a lot. Our first ancestor was Sahelanthropus chadensis. They were similar to us in appearance, but they had a much smaller brain. Next in line was the Australopithecus afarensis. Its brain was already almost double the size of its ancestors. And then there was the start of the family Homo. First came Homo erectus, dubbed the toolmaker. Then there was Homo heidelbergensis, and then us, Homo sapiens. As you can probably tell, it's taken a long time to get here. Evolution happens because of natural selection. Natural selection happens due to the fact that animals are better adapted to their environment and can survive and be able to breed, whereas the less adapted animals die without breeding. This then passes on the more adapted animals' genes, so the next generation has the better adapted genes. We played a game in science where everyone created their own sticky dog and they all had different characteristics and adaptations. Every round there will be a new challenge our sticky dogs had to face. If your characteristics matched with the challenge our sticky dogs had to face, then your dogs would breed and the number of your sticky dogs would go up. But if your characteristics didn't fit the challenge, then your number of sticky dogs would go down. If your sticky dog count went to 0, then your breed of sticky dogs wouldn't exist. This taught us a lot about how natural selection works.
Humans have evolved to become a unique species from their brains growing in size and mass. This has opened up new opportunities for the humankind, allowing us to create tools, languages, and societies. Our evolution took 7 million years, where we went from chimpanzee-like species to apes to humans. Currently, human brains weigh about 1.5 kilograms and 1/3 bigger than 2 fists clenched together. Compared to the size of the brain, one of our earliest ancestors, known as Homo habilis, had a brain size of a mere 600 grams, which is about 2.5 times smaller than a Homo sapien brain. On the topic of brain size, our most recent ancestor, known as Neanderthals, have had a brain size about 15% larger than Homo sapiens. So why did they die out faster than humans? This is a result of we were simply more developed than the Neanderthals, meaning that we were able to win out competition over resources, even though the Neanderthals had a larger brain than us, and they were unable to survive and died out. An example of such development is shown in the evolution lines, species and Homo erectus, where they were all not developed enough to continue evolving to result in Homo sapiens, whereas one of our ancestors, known as Homo heidelbergensis, had a larger brain size than Homo erectus, resulting in further evolution, thus evolving into Homo sapiens. In conclusion, our larger brains have led us to more intelligence, millions of years of evolution, resulting in more problem solving, finding more food, and ensuring better survival. The story of evolution tells us that humans are some of the most developed species on the planet. It is able to show us that animals are able to change and adapt to their surroundings in order to survive and pass on offspring to create new generations. Humans are exceedingly good at adapting to situations. This is what humans do.
In art, we also studied the life and work of Frida Kahlo and the importance of her art. When Frida was only 18, she was involved in a serious bus accident which transformed her life forever. 18 years old, and her life was taken away from her. Not fair. Frida Kahlo was severely injured on the bus when a handrail impaled through her back and out of her pelvis. She was also severely affected in many other places, causing her life to transform within a few minutes. Due to the accident, she lived her life in a full body cast in hospital forever. However, she was determined to live her life through her passion for art, to live as a survivor, an inspiration to the world. Frida Kahlo would paint portraits of herself from her bed by looking at a mirror, using her Mexican culture. When painting these images, she shocked the world by showing off her natural beauty, showing off that not everyone is perfect, showing off her imperfections. Frida Kahlo hasn't left any biological impact. She has left a positive impact, a cultural impact, an inspiring impact to many people. She proved to the world that we aren't perfect, that even during hard times we can do things we enjoy, that we should embrace our features of ourselves and use them for good. Her leaving an impact links to the humanist belief that to be human is to leave a positive impact on the world. Being human means to have culture, to have identity, and to be yourself no matter what everyone says.
My favourite piece of work that I have made this term is my micrography, because I think it's fascinating how you can add tone by spacing the words out. This is really interesting to learn about as we used words to create images. For example, I use words related to circulatory system to create an image of the heart. When looking at this image closely, you can see the individual words, but as you got further and further away, you could see a picture with lots of different tones. This type of art highlights something unique to humans: storytelling. This links to our XP design principles. From our very first expedition, from the ground up, we were sharing stories of miners which could have been lost if untold. At XP Gate said, stories are very important. We think it's important to share these stories as they're important to what our community believes and they have shaped our community. It is also linked to culture and heritage, because sharing these stories can create new cultures. Sharing our stories links to how we preserve and pass on our unique culture and heritage. We can use words to create images on paper. We can also use words to create images in someone else's mind.
To support organ donation, we created an art installation for the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Gated for line drawn organs. These are printed onto mirrors because more people would be interested in a mirror than photos, as the hospital is busy, so more people are frustrated and might need a break and take time to themselves and look at paintings or mirrors on a wall, and they will be able to look at their face and themselves. The art can make it more personal because they might have had a transplant or know someone who has had a transplant. With it being a mirror, they get to see their face next to that organ, which might even influence them to donate. It encourages people to talk about the art as it's more unique and discussed where it is to others, so as a result, more people will know and maybe even have a conversation about organ donation. As a result, we hope more families have a conversation about organ donation that could happen between families, friends, and even strangers. From past, people might have felt the horror of waiting for a transplant. This connects to our guiding question: what does it mean to be human? Because we have made artwork about organ donation which could help to save someone's life. And being human is supporting and helping others, showing empathy to others who have been through this.
Religion is a key part of the present world, shaping our laws, holidays, and more. An enormous part of religion is the belief in an afterlife. Several major worldwide religions, Christianity and Islam, both believe in life after death, but they are not always on the same page. In Christianity, with a staggering 1.2 billion followers, they believe in two spiritual places, heaven and hell. Heaven is described as a place beyond the clouds, is a place of joy, paradise, and peace. Within heaven, you have eternal life with God. Heaven is also described as God's kingdom. Christians use their own actions to help others by supporting them and overall living a good, passionate life to enter heaven. But hell is a place of suffering, fire, and torment. All Christians understand hell as a state of existence without God. Hell is often associated with the devil or Satan. Hell is a place brought upon you by your own actions, bad deeds. In return, you are punished with eternal suffering. Getting into either is judged on by your actions alone. Too many bad deeds, or rather referred to as sins, will get you into hell, and more good deeds will get you into heaven. What would you aim for? A Christian's life would be affected by the path of living a good life and going to heaven, so they would strive to achieve this. But in Islam, over 1.9 billion followers believe that once you die, you remain in your grave until Akhira, the Day of Judgment. Israfil will sound the horn to wake the dead, and at the same time the world will be destroyed at the end of a cycle, which only Allah knows when this will be. All of humanity, past and present, will be brought before God. In Islam, they refer to God as Allah, but Christians and Muslims believe in the same God, but they refer to him differently. Once before Allah, you shall be judged of all your deeds. How does he know these deeds? Recording angels. One records good and one records bad. Good deeds are recorded immediately, but bad deeds are recorded in 6 hours in case of amendments. Allah will place all your deeds on a weighing scale, and everything you have touched, encountered, and had, including your body, will speak for and against you, telling Allah of their experiences. Once over, whichever side of the scale is heavier, good or bad, is dependent on where you shall go. Jahannam is a garden of perpetual bliss, peace, and tranquility. This is much similar to heaven, but more bad deeds, and you shall end up in Jahannam, a place of fire, suffering, and pain. Jahannam is described as a bottomless pit. How do they know this, you may ask? It is written in the Quran, the Muslims' holy book, which has been written by Allah. Both religions have much in common, like both being judged on your actions by God and how you're held accountable for everything you do within your life. This shows that being human is about showing kindness and overall living a good quality life. These religions may have different views, beliefs, rules, and much more, but they are similar. An example of this is they both believe in Abraham as the first prophet and the same God.
During our expedition, we studied the Abrahamic and Dharmic faiths. The Dharmic faiths include Hindu Dharma, Buddhism, and Sikh. Abrahamic faiths include Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Hindu Dharma was founded in the Indus Valley between 2300 BC and 1500 BC. Brahma is considered to be one god, but he is not worshipped because he is more of a creator of the world. Furthermore, Hindus call Brahma different names depending on what he is doing. When he is creating, he is known as Brahma. When he is destroying, he is known as Lord Shiva. When he is caring for the earth, he is known as Lord Vishnu. The Hindus also believe in their version of the creation story, which starts from the coils of a snake in the void of nothing. Lord Vishnu awoke from an Om sound, and from that sound, a lotus flower appeared, which made Brahma, and Brahma created the universe as we know it. Prahlad was an expert who explained and answered curious questions we had about Hindu Dharma and death. He talked about the afterlife and that there was no afterlife because you just merge with the greater energy and are reunited with Brahma if you live a good life and become enlightened. But if you live a bad life, you will be reincarnated. He told us that life is an illusion and the purpose is to disconnect from material needs in Hindu Dharma. The Atman is the soul, and this is reincarnated. Prahlad describes the baby crying when they're born being so hard that they forgot their past life, so they have to start again. And that's what happens when people who have reached enlightenment or moksha.
Buddhism started not with a god, but with a man. Back in the early 4th century, there was a king who had a son. The king was told by an old wise man that his son would become a powerful man, either a king or a holy man. The king wanted to make sure that his son became a king, so he didn't let his son out of the palace. The son was called Siddhartha. He snuck out of the palace at night to go to the city to see what it was like. Whilst there, he experienced the 4 sights. The 4 sights of Buddha include witnessing an older man, a sick person, a corpse, and a holy man. Siddhartha then decided to meditate on the meaning of life, and he sat under a tree for 49 days to do this. What he discovered is that he was sitting on a wheel, where he had to sit in the middle of and not be attracted by anything in life, causing him to turn inwards. Buddhism believes that everything comes from the same original energy source. Once you fully understand this, then you are enlightened. Buddhists believe some beliefs with Hindus. They also believe in the cycle of samsara, how they believe in nirvana is the end of the cycle, where you no longer are reborn, when you enter a state where there's nothing, suffering or desire. They also share this belief of karma and the actions and the consequences of actions. An important concept is Buddhism, Hindu, Dharma and Sikhi.
Humanism is not a religion. Humanism doesn't believe in God. Humanism does not have to tell them what to do. However, they have 3 main ideas which guide them, which are be kind and find happiness. Humanists say that they want to enter the world and leave the world as a better place. This links to being human because it means while on earth they try to live the best life possible. Belief in an afterlife encourages humans to be kind, do good deeds and to have a good life so they can get rewarded later in the afterlife, and if they don't, they will suffer and be tortured because of their actions. However, if they live a good life, they will get all their wishes come true and spend eternal life with God. Heaven and hell are good examples, as if you have a good life on earth, you will go to heaven, and if you have a bad life on earth, you will go to hell. But people can also ask for forgiveness, but depends on what sin you have committed. This would impact how people choose to live their life on earth. Humanists don't believe on an afterlife, but they still try to live a compassionate life because it could leave a good impact on earth and change it for the better.
In the past, humans have made mistakes, such as if you remember that fateful time down in Barbados, on those ships, all those slave trades, transatlantic slave trades. This involved people being beaten and tied up and becoming weak and uncomfortable and going through unbearable pain and stress. It was quite a barbaric experience for them. It is not how we would want humans to be treated, but the slave traders dehumanized these people and essentially made them into weapons other than real people. They were more seen as property instead of an actual human being. The rich and wealthy traded items like weapons and textiles and rum for human beings and sold those humans so they could buy expensive and exotic items such as gold, cotton and sugar. They were treated as if they were machines and as if they weren't humans. This links to being human because everyone should be treated fairly and with compassion, regardless of what they look like or who they are. By ignoring our shared humanity, this has led to racism and discrimination. Those people should have never gone through this. By investigating the slave culture and heritage on the plantations, we discovered that culture and heritage linked to being human a lot because we looked at examples of them singing and dancing in the traditional styles from their homes of Africa. This shows culture is very important. They also celebrated the abolishment of the transatlantic slave trade because as humans it is important that we stand up against injustice.
For human life to exist, it is essential that all organ systems work together. But is that what makes us human? For instance, the human brain would not function without a heart pumping blood around the body. The human brain takes in 20% of the oxygen absorbed. As a matter of fact, newborn babies take in more than 50% of oxygen to their brain. Babies are more underdeveloped than fully grown humans. This is because our brains are extraordinarily large in proportion to other animals' brains. Oxygen is absorbed into the bloodstream during gas exchange by the lungs. Therefore, oxygen would not be delivered to the brain. As a consequence, the body would not function properly. Our brains are the source of our intelligence, our creativity, our language, our ability to communicate with each other and feel emotion. Without oxygen getting to our brain, none of this would be able to happen. Oxygen to our brain is the fuel for our intelligence. For me, this is what makes us human, because of our body's ability to work together so we can develop, function and survive. Humans learn, grow and develop all throughout life from the moment of fertilization. We go from a tiny zygote to a fully grown human. We go from a cell to a zygote into an embryo, then a fetus until we are grown. From this moment on, we are constantly learning and developing new skills. Our bodies mature through puberty, which is caused by hormones, testosterone in boys and estrogen in girls. This starts around the ages of 12 to 13 and doesn't stop until around 22. This prepares us for possibly reproducing and becoming parents. Whilst humans show variation just like any other species, we share 99% of our DNA with each other. Our characteristics are controlled by the genes we inherit from our parents. For example, we each have a gene that controls the colour of our hair, and another that controls the shape of our earlobes. We have 46 chromosomes altogether, 23 from your mother and 23 from your father. This is most definitely one of our biggest strengths as a species. If we were all genetically identical, and so much as one single person caught a disease, the whole population would go extinct. These genes are passed down through generations. Your genes will be one half of your mother's, then 1/4 of your grandmother's, and so on. But it is in fact these tiny differences in our genetics that really make us human.
We are all very different from each other. We show variation because of our genetics, which lead us to be different and unique. We have variants of our genetics which are called alleles. They are passed down, and this can lead to us looking similar but having different genetic makeup. Alleles can either be dominant, which is represented by a capital letter T, or recessive, which is represented by a small letter t. We have 2 alleles per chromosome pair. We have 23 pairs of 46 chromosomes in total in the human body. Cells, the dominant allele would only need one to show, but recessive alleles need to be both of the alleles. This means both alleles would need to be recessive. Humans are quite the unique species as we have developed to suit our environment. Alleles can affect characteristics such as earlobes, like a dominant allele being loose earlobes and the recessive being attached earlobes. Loose earlobes would be more common as it is the dominant one. We have variation and different alleles to better suit our environment. This has shaped us to survive and adapt to live in the most efficient way possible. We get this from our parents genetically. There are other things we get from our parents which aren't genetic. Our cultures, such as beliefs, religion, ideas, morality, which is the ability to differentiate between right and wrong, and most importantly, our experiences, which can shape us and result in problems, but possibly benefits in our later life.
Over time, humans have developed in hundreds of different ways to become the only remaining Homo species, which has made us smarter and more efficient in life. An example is how humans have made use of different food sources for different habitats to build a safe and warm homes for many different materials. We are the most adaptable species on the planet. We live in forests, by the sea, in the mountains, in the deserts, and in snow-bound lands. Our species has gotten bigger and more suited to survive. Humans have changed in ways, but most importantly, have a bigger brain. Evolution is one of the things that has changed the human species, making us walk on 2 feet, build tools, develop a language so we can teach and learn from others. Natural selection means that traits which make humans the best built for certain areas or tasks allow for survival, and then those who which are successful, their genes get passed on to the next generation. The next generation can get the traits of parents and possibly find food better. The cycle repeats and keeps going. Humans also develop language and communication. Communication isn't always with words. Humans, unlike most animals, show the whites of their eyes, which this is because humans can read the other's mind just by eye movement. It also helps look for trust in other people. We are the only species that can read intentions of others. This has allowed us to develop a sophisticated social structure and learn from each other. Ultimately, the evolution of humans has changed the world and existence of life.
The continent of Africa is very diverse with variation and genetics. It has the highest genetic variation among all humans. We measure the development measures by saying the average income of two different cities in a country. We looked at the Democratic Republic of Congo as a case study. We learned that it is not a great place to live. In some places, they mine diamonds using children, but at the age of 4, they don't live very long because there's not good conditions in the mines. I've learned about Africa. It's a very interesting place to live because different cities are a lot diverse and different than others. And there's over 250 ethnic groups and they speak over 700 languages.
Through our anchor text, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time, we explored the idea that being human is about caring for others. It's also about having courage, as in the book Christopher had to get the train to find his mum. He was presenting courage here because he loves the train but hates leaving his comfort zone. Throughout this book, he is shown courage and overcame his fears. The book also explores the idea of family. The theme of family is important because Christopher's dad really supports him. This relationship changes because he told Christopher that his mum died, but Christopher found out that his dad was lying. Throughout learning about Christopher, we have found out that he has autism and therefore he struggles with lots of things, such as he hates when people touch him, he doesn't like busy places, and he doesn't like going to new places. He is 15 years old and he loves maths. He's very good at maths. When he gets scared or worried, he does maths in his head to calm him down. Sadly, his mum had her own struggles and was unable to look after him. Christopher was left with his dad. His dad is very close with him as he understands Christopher and supports his needs. This led me to think that what is important as a human is about having family to support you.
This links to our crew read shows who you are, because in that we met Cora, who has autism and struggles to make friends. When she meets Adrian, they become friends straight away. This suggests that people are happier when they have friends because they have someone to talk to. It also suggests that having friends and relationships is part of being human. At Pomegranate, they make Rams, in brackets, a virtual person, of people who, so when they die, they can still see them. But we found out that they changed the grams. Cora was really annoyed at this because it takes away what makes them unique. In my opinion, this is not right and they should not be doing this to people. I think this makes them less human because our differences make us unique. Changing someone's emotions, personality, and how they act changes who they are. For example, Cora got interviewed and they took out her autism. This taught us that what it means to be human is having our personality, our emotions, and how we act as a human.
Diversity and belonging was an important theme which we saw through Christopher and Cora because they both have autism and it doesn't mean they can't do what anyone else can. In the books, Christopher and Cora both have people that support them and help them understand things. They both show great courage in the books as they don't give up until they succeed. This taught us what it means to be human is to be brave and different because that makes you who you are and it doesn't mean you can't do anything else others can. I also think that these books also represent what it means to be human by showing compassion and not giving up.
To me, being human doesn't have an answer. We all have different reasons and none of them are incorrect. Now, some people may think I'm being lazy, but think about it. The answer isn't wrong if we say it's to care about one another, or if it's to leave the world in a better place than we found it. No one can tell us we are wrong if we say it's to look after nature, as well as they can't say we are wrong if we say it's to make mistakes. To be honest, it's all of those things. Even if you said it's to be rude or mean or a criminal, we still need those people because without villains we wouldn't have heroes. Without bad, we wouldn't have good. Now, this isn't to say you should encourage yourselves to be bad, as it's not good for you, never mind everyone else. You're sabotaging yourself by being bad, and no one wants that. So here's my answer. To be human is to question what it means to be human. Enjoy the world, look after our planet, be kind, respectful, and compassionate. All of those things, they're all correct, but it doesn't mean everything else is wrong.
There isn't an answer to being human, so just enjoy it whilst you can.
So, what does it mean to be human? To us, being human is having the courage to be able to do things outside your comfort zone, even if it's challenging.
It is having respect, to recognise that everyone is unique and has different ideas and how that is our strength.
It is having craftsmanship and quality to produce work that is strong enough to influence how people think and act.
It is having the integrity to be able to recognise what's right even if no one is watching and others disagree, and having enough integrity to admit when you have done something wrong and putting that right. And above all, it is to have compassion. Enough compassion to go out of your way to make someone else's day a bit better.
How having compassion can change how someone feels, like they belong. Being human is having these differences, because that's what makes us a strong species, an independent species, a diverse and unique species.
Being human is not just one fixed thing. Being human is about experiences, making mistakes, and most important, finding out who you are as a person and not letting anyone take that away from you.
Would we be able to celebrate diversity now and recognise it as a strength if we weren't human?
Would we recognise that it's all right to have different thoughts and opinions?
Would we be able to question and answer what makes us human?